Welcome to Modern Wisdom with Dawn Ricci. I'm Dawn Ricci, a spiritual mentor, healer, psychic, and medium. My podcast is all about empowering you with spiritual insights on health, wellness, relationships, and careers. Join me and my guests as we navigate life's twists and turns, sharing wisdom and expanding knowledge together. Hit subscribe now to stay updated and never miss an episode. Hey everyone, so today I am so honored to have Hollywood veteran and award-winning actress Tina Lifford, who plays Aunt Vi on the television drama Queen Sugar, and she played the CIA director on Scandal and the mother-in-law and Renee Trussell on Parenthood. Oh my God, Scandal was my favorite. Forget it. Tina is also the author of the little book of Big Lies, and she's the creator and architect of the Inner Fitness Project. And we're going to be talking about all these things. So Tina's wisdom was learned the hard way, as a lot of us are. She is here today to share her experience as both the Hollywood actress and how she developed the network of the Inner Fitness Project. So I'm grateful that Tina will share her hard-won insights with us. Tina, hello, and
Hey,
thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna dive, I'm gonna dive right in because we're gonna talk about your book, The Little Big Lies, The Little Book of Big Lies. I listened to the book, and it was truly something like, obviously it's all about life skills, and all of us need that, every single one of us. And it moved me to think about times in my life a little bit more again. So like I said to you before, healed until you're triggered again. And so I was like, wow, you said some things in there that I think that I have to journal tonight. So I thank you for that. Thank you for healing me once more.
Fantastic,
So
fantastic.
tell us about the book. Tell us about you, what you're doing now. Tell us.
Well, that's a lot. Dawn, thank you for having me. I always enjoy being in a conversation about navigating this tricky thing called life, And I love that more and more people are enrolled in the conversation of how do we do this thing better? How do we do this thing better internally? And that's what the Inner Fitness Project is all about. It's like, shouldn't we have as much insight and understanding and actionable practices that we can default to the way we do around physical fitness? Everyone understands the importance of physical fitness in their lives at this point, from, the medical industry to wellness throughout, and even well-being when it comes to being able to use exercise to help lower your blood pressure or lower your anxiety. All of that stuff is really good and powerful and assigned to physical fitness. Inner fitness is that place inside of us, the internal self that isn't the image you see in the mirror, but it is the creator of our experiences.
Yeah.
And so we need to know how to exercise, take care of, manage, navigate the internal world, our thoughts, our feelings, and our beliefs, because they are creating our actions and reactions.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, emotions, inner harbored childhood, past life, all of it, all our emotions stick to us like glue. And inside our cells, inside our blood, inside every ounce of our being. And I think that being in the physical fitness part of it, yeah, all right, that makes you feel good. It gets your endorphins. It, it makes you thin. It makes you build. It gives you confidence because you look better on the vehicle on the outside. But really on the inside, there's that little girl that's hurt from her mother. There's that little boy who was hurt from his mother, his father. There's a school teacher, a priest, or all the other things that everyone carries around with them. And you called it baggage. So, like, yeah, I'm all into designer. I'm all into having a designer bag, but I do not like my emotional bag. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to take care of, that's how I ended up in the industry that I'm in the spiritual industry, because I wanted to take care of my spiritual bag. And then I wanted to even just make a few people happy, one person a day, give some kindness or do something to change someone's life. And that's the goal. That's the goal of my life right now,
Yeah.
is to do that. And that's why I was so attracted, obviously, to you and to everything you do. But your second, like your thing that you're doing now with the fitness project, the inner fitness project, because that is super important.
Yeah.
People don't think of it in that way. So kudos to you for branding it in a new way that someone could really think about it inside, because not all of us really do like
Yeah. You know,
getting
I
sweaty.
I think that I was really aware because it was my initial stance as well. But a lot of people are afraid of themselves.
Mm,
We don't tell ourselves that truth, but we have not been taught how to be with our emotions. And we assume that our emotions are fixed, that if we feel this way right this moment, we feel this way all the time. We are stuck with these feelings.
yeah,
And part of what inner fitness and self-investigation gives us is we begin to reassess how we think about ourselves, reassess the assumptions that we have drawn about ourselves and life. It gives us time with the interior self that allows us to go, oh, maybe that's a habit and not who I am. And being able to make a distinction between a habit and who I am, or some way in which I have become conditioned versus who I am. As long as the two exist, now the who I am has permission and room to challenge the habit and the conditioning. And
yeah,
we haven't been taught that we have that permission, that power, and that responsibility.
yeah, yeah. It's something just occurred to me too, is that it's very generational. Like I know, like my parents, like you talked about letting it go. That was part when I read the book, I was when she said, "Oh, just let that go." Oh, I'm a queen of like, just let that go. Like, don't mind it. Like, let it go. It's not going to bother me. I'm just going to let it go. Well, I shouldn't be like that, right? We all should like address that if it's something really that bothers you. I really feel that generationally, we've been taught how to act from our parents because that's how they were taught. And I think that kids nowadays or young adults nowadays, they really show their feelings a heck of a lot than my generation.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I think that what we're really talking about here is evolution,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because when you say it's generational, it can be that, and it is that quite often, and it's evolutional, it's what we human beings had to do initially to survive as a species. So, evolutionarily, we have the same nervous system that was being built 500 million years ago. So, the nervous system that lives in reptiles, reptilian brain, that nervous system that built itself, that strengthened itself, that began to understand how to survive in the world long before humans, were birthed, right? Were evolved long
Yeah.
before humans evolved. So we have a very astute and deeply ingrained survival mechanism. And that mechanism is very danger adverse.
Mhm.
So the way in which the nervous system keeps us safe, or the brain keeps us safe, is it recognizes danger, and it sends an emotional signal with regards to that danger. And then it tells us for the rest of our lives, until we go in and change the programming, it tells us what to do where that emotion is concerned.
Right. Yeah.
So until we take charge
Yeah.
of teaching ourselves new information regarding those emotions and those experiences, those unconscious and unexplored experiences that are handed to us through evolution and our generational lines, until we realize that there is a part of us that is separate and capable of actually impacting, rewiring, overwriting what we have come to know as ourselves. We
Yes.
have to know that we are not the experience. There is something bigger than the experience, and we are that something that's bigger, and that we can make a difference, where the experience is concerned.
Yes. That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you. All right. So in your book, I want to go back into it. In the book, you described the three selves, and you had like this epiphany,
Yeah.
right? And you made these three selves. And it's funny, when I read that, I initially thought of like little, I don't know, like little balls of light, like there's three balls of light, and one was the surviving self, and one was the thriving self, and the other was the infinite self. So will you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have been a student of, personal development, awareness, of, evolving spiritually, mentally, for a very long time. And one of the things that we're all becoming aware of is what we focus on, where we put our attention, we wind up manifesting in that direction,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And so I really wanted to know, how is it that I can be strong and confident in areas of my life? Let's say most areas of my life. And then in this area where this thing is concerned, I can have total breakdown, or the inability to feel in charge or powerful, right?
Right.
And and I knew that I was not a fraud. So I knew that when in the areas where I'm confident, I know that that's real. So what is this other thing? What is this part of self that doesn't doesn't look like this confident one over here at all?
Yeah.
And I started really wanting to have answers to that. Um and And so I was just always in the internal question of what is that? And how to better navigate that and how to better understand that. And I share that to say that when we are in conversation with our internal self, it matters
Mhm.
because there is something listening,
Yeah,
without being woo-woo, there
right,
is a connection between our mind, our heart, and what shows up in our lives. And so I had a dream, and in that dream, very quickly, I was walking down a beach. I saw two people up ahead, and they were arguing. And the closer I got to them, I realized only one was arguing, and the other was incredibly peaceful. And me in the dream watching these two, I saw that the argumentative one, the closer I got, the more she just was just flailing her arms and wanting my attention and trying to steal my attention from the calm presence. And so ultimately I got, maybe 20, 25 feet away from them. And the calm presence stepped forward and hugged the argumentative woman. And when they stopped hugging one another, they turned and looked at me. And I saw my face on both of their bodies. And it literally changed my life
yeah,
because I woke up and I realized, oh, that's all of us, and those three selves are active in all of us all the time. And what would happen if we began to have a framework through which we could see ourselves in action, see our behaviors, and be informed about which self was driving our car. You were talking about, seeing the self as a vehicle. Well,
right.
which self, is driving the car? And so I woke up and, I named those selves, the surviving self, always in worry, doubt, and fear, always ready for a fight, always othering and challenging and distancing. And then there's and all of the cousins to those adjectives, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then the thriving self is the part of us that is always moving forward, always curious, being open, empathetic, compassionate, just allowing life to inform so that we can grow.
yeah,
And then the infinite is the part that just holds it all. The infinite is without the duality of, the thriving or the surviving, but it is the very consciousness itself with life, right? And so,
hey, if you haven't already done so, check out my website at dawnricci.com where you can book your appointment with me. If you need expert guidance in finding your own spirituality or maybe thinking about getting back on track with health and well-being, then let's get to it with customized mentoring programs for your personal development. You can find all the information you need at dawnricci.com. Now let's get back to the show.
there is something to the triune nature that lives inside of us. And for us to be aware that when we are showing up with a certain energy, we can check inside and just ask ourselves the question, am I feeling like I'm in survival mode in some way?
Absolutely. Because if you have to ask yourself the question, because that's how you heal. If you don't know what's going on in your inside, that's how you listen to yourself. It's your own intuition, you
Yeah.
know, in simple form. Every day, everyone should listen to that voice in their head, because that's their, that's their sign, that's their panic sign, or that's their go ahead sign. You have to listen to your intuition, your higher self. And in my opinion, with how your dream went, first of all, I don't believe that your dream came into fruition maybe long ago, but the timing was right for you to place it within this realm and use it if in this part of your book, because that's how you explain, that's how you explain how people divide themselves up and their behaviors up and how they act and react. Like
Mhm.
every day we get up, we go, we're in survival mode. Some days are worse than others. You get on the bus, you go to work, you travel to the city, you got home, you make dinner, you get the kids, you're in survival mode. And so that's not a really great place to be, but that's all you have right now. So if you really look and say, oh my gosh, is there something else? Everybody wants to know, is there something else that I can do to make myself better? Then that's the thriving person that's coming through. Okay, let's do this. Let's try that. Oh, no, I don't have the money. Oh, well, let's just try it. Maybe I could do with a little bit. So you have all this conversation going around in your head. And the infinite self is the self that's going to be there for the last 1,000 years and the next 1,000 years. It's your soul. That's your infinite self. And I loved it. I love the fact that you put that together.
I definitely agree with you that it is super important for us to be in conversation with ourselves, our internal self,
Yeah,
because, there's that saying that all of our answers are inside.
yeah,
And I agree with that. And the way we get to those answers is to learn to be comfortable with asking questions efficiently, and allowing ourselves to have room to show up.
yeah,
The surviving self can take up a lot of room.
yeah,
If we don't spend time with ourselves, helping those scared parts of ourselves, those default survival parts of ourselves, have a sense of calm and acknowledgement. If we don't do that, then it just makes that internal fear all the worse,
oh,
right?
absolutely, yeah,
Right? And so I had been I had been struggling internally, and I had been asking, what is this? How can I work with this better? What do I need to know? What do I need to see? And asking questions like that just to the universe, just what I call them EEQs, effective and empowering questions, because they are questions that if the answers already live inside or in the universe, those questions invite that answer. And so, I ask questions when I'm lost, or when I'm just trying to navigate, or
yeah,
when I'm trying to dream bigger. I just ask, okay, so what do I do here?
yeah,
What does it look like? What am I supposed to do? And this feeling that I'm feeling, how do I best manage it? And there's always, through intuition and through connection to it all, answers come. And that's what happened when I had that dream. I woke up and said, "Oh my God, that's it. Oh my God, that's it."
I love it.
I understood. I mean, literally, it was like my whole life came into focus, because I had this ability to see how often I was in the surviving self. And then I was able to see, oh my goodness gracious, the surviving self is so caught up in fear and worry, doubt, and fear and habit and all of that it doesn't even know that the thriving and infinite parts of itself exists.
Oh,
It,
absolutely.
right? We don't, when we're in survival mode, we don't know that we have all that other power available to us.
Yeah.
And mhm,
Yeah, I agree. I 150% agree with that, because even in my previous life, in my other career before I entered into the spiritual industry, it was all about power. It was all about like, it was a huge endeavor. I handled so much power. I mean, I helped people and I held their life in my hand, which is very funny because you doing Scandal, my friends used to call me Olivia Pope, because I used to have like she's like, you're the fixer. You're like the fixer. Because I used to be an investigator. So I used to help women with their cheating spouses, And so,
yeah,
like, yeah, I'm like the fixer, but I held everyone's life in their hand, all the facts. And so it was so hard to do that for everybody else that I actually ended up losing myself.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was, and so by the time that by the time you come out of that, right? By the time you like throw yourself out of that, is really almost like you save yourself and say, there's got to be a different way. There's more to life than and I know it's easy to say, but it's more to life than money. There's more to life than, having things. There's more to life,
Yeah,
and yes, I do love things. That's, sidebar, I do,
yeah, yeah.
but there's more to it than that. There's a universe that if you throw out there love, honor, honesty, integrity, treating your fellow man, all those things that we're always taught to do, you're going to get it back threefold. And and you feel so much better releasing all that stuff.
It's I of course agree with you. And what I have found is, they say that the shortest distance between two places is a straight line. And I have found that my straight line is to give all of that kind of attention, everything that you just said, compassion and understanding and love. And if I give that to my internal self, not my ego, right? Not the ego, but to the parts of self that have not received acknowledgement, the parts of self that have not been championed, the parts of self that are unresolved and in some level of hurt and disconnect.
Yeah,
If we give ourselves that kind of acknowledgement, then it helps us to begin to heal, rewire, resolve, so that more of the thriving self and infinite self can naturally emerge in our lives.
yeah,
And who we are, we take everywhere we go.
yeah,
So if we give that time and consideration to self, what's going to happen is that we are going to be more of what we need and the world can benefit from when we go out into it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I smile more now. I mean, so like say, we smile more now than I've ever done before. I don't know about you, but like being in this state, in this state of being, you really are, you become very grateful, and you become very honest, just very humble of, where we are. And I love to show people how to be that. Open their little open their hearts a little bit more so they can be in the same way. I love that.
So
What
may I share
I would love to.
share a little technique that really does help people connect with themselves more. But to share it, I actually would like to use you as an example, because you have modeled something a few times that everyone does. And just paying attention to this one little thing can help one be in a more aware and loving relationship with self. So may I use you?
Of course you may.
Okay, great. So it is very common for us when we're talking about ourselves to talk in the third person. We'll say things like, well, you know how it is, or how people are when you've worked in corporate America all this time and you've wind up disconnected from yourself and you don't know what that is, or why it is, but you know something's wrong. If we simply always use I language, the moment we say, well, you know how I feel that this corporate America thing, it has just left me not knowing who I am. The more we use I, the more we are in conversation with ourselves, the more our truth is going to come out of our own mouths. The more our truth comes out of our own mouths, the more we're going to hear where we are. And just that little adjustment, going from the third person you, or you know how it is, to owning what is true for us, sends a message to the deepest part of ourselves that we are listening to ourselves, that we hear ourselves, that we are identifying and calling out where we are and how we feel. It's powerful.
It is powerful. Wow. You take the reader on a visual journey using particular techniques. That's what I thought you were going to say. Using particular techniques, and it's like the visual stop sign, and you sit in the observer's chair. Will you share that with us?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the observer's chair is a powerful tool. And before I share how you use it, everything with inner fitness, you know, through the lens of the Inner Fitness Project, is about creating a better relationship with yourself. And we capitalize that self so that we get into the habit of recognizing and acknowledging that we are more than just that image in the mirror, and knowing that we are more. If we get curious about the more that we are, then we're going to be in a better relationship with who we are. And the observer's chair supports understanding and seeing who we are by literally, it's like, you know, using your life like it's a movie. You go into a theater to watch a movie, you sit in those plush little, you know, theater chairs, and then you watch the movie that unfolds, you know, in front of your eyes. And one of the best things about a movie that you are engaged in is you get to see when that person knocks at the door, your heart goes, because you know who it is. But the person, the character, you know, in the room who has to answer the door doesn't know who's knocking, right?
Right.
But you have the objectivity to
Right.
see who's knocking. You have the objectivity to see how these two people meeting up right here in this moment connects to other things that neither one of them is necessarily aware of. And that's what the observer's chair gives us when we begin to sit in the observer's chair in our own lives. So, I'm an actress, and on every set, there are director's chairs
Mhm.
for the director and for the cast and for crew. And so just imagine yourself sitting in a little director's chair or whatever chair is comfortable for you, sitting just above your life and then watching your life unfold. And that objectivity allows you begin to see, oh, well, there's a little surviving self happening there, what was that little snarky thing that you said? And oh, that's interesting, because that's the same thing you did, yesterday, or the same thing that you did, 5 years ago. Oh my God, that's the same thing that happened when you and little Billy were playing, and you were like 5 or 7 years old. Now you have objectivity.
Yeah,
You can see without judgment the patterns, the judgments, the default assumptions, the habits, just all of you is more visible.
yeah. I just loved that because even with like my clients too, we take them on a visual journey of empowerment, where they are and then where they want to go and where, what they feel they are, we take it in pieces. So that observer's chair is very important
Yeah.
to reflect upon, because then you're accountable for what has gone on in the past and the patterns that you bring into the future and the patterns that you're living now. Like, I know that, I've witnessed just even, with clients or whatever, they will do the same things over and over. Like, say, for instance, they'll have the same relationships, the same type of relationships, the same type of guy, making the same mistake, and it's just the same. And so we always peel it back to say, okay, well, what is it about that personality, that type of personality that you keep going after that particular, why are you allowing that to happen? Or why are you choosing that thing? What is that thing that it keeps making you make that choice? And it always comes down to their confidence, a lack of confidence.
Yeah, you know, we have such a adversarial relationship with ourselves. It is so um ingrained to self-judge, attack, blame,
Mhm.
uh, and dishonor ourselves in so many subtle ways. And the work at the Inner Fitness Project is very much about sort of outing that behavior, because that behavior actually just supports and perpetuates the beliefs and habits of the surviving self. And so one of the things that I find important is for us to all sort of, in the effort of loving oneself, understand that we do what we do for very good reasons. Now, they might be the good reasons of the surviving self. And if we want to do things for better reasons, then we have to be operating from a self that has our best interests, a higher idea of our best interests.
Yeah.
And so instead of judging ourselves, I don't, in the little book of Big Lies, there's a statement that that I say that there is never a justifiable reason, not for any reason under any circumstance, for us to think poorly or speak harshly to ourselves ever again, not for any
Yes.
reasons, right? And so we do what we do because in some way it supported our survival at some point.
Yeah.
And we must now become more aware, using that observer's chair,
Yeah.
using those stop signs, and I'll share that with you, but using tools to help us see that there are ways that we have managed through life that don't necessarily serve our best interest. But
Yeah.
we can't change that until we see it and understand with compassion that
Yeah.
it exists for a good reason, not a reason that we have to, continue with. It could be a reason that we have outgrown.
Right. And I think that's when you learn, when you start outgrowing the situation, or that's when you learn your lesson and you move on. It's been like amazing to, we did go off the script a lot, but I like, all right, throw the script out the window. I just loved our conversation. It was just really deep and helpful. I think the listeners, um, we help one person. That's all that matters today, right? That's all it's about, is just making someone else really happy.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, Miss Tina, you are a wise and powerful soul.
Mm,
Oh, thank you so much for sitting with me today. I
Dawn, thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for reaching out. And, I say we're all in this together, right?
Yeah,
We're
we
all
are.
in this together. And I love your mission of helping one person every single day.
Yeah.
And, and I encourage your listeners to include themselves. So help two people, you
Yep.
know,
Pay
do
it forward.
do something good for yourself that has you understand yourself better, accept yourself more, and then extend that compassion and that empathy and that understanding to another. People just want to feel safe, seen, and heard.
So true. Thank you again. And thank you everyone for listening. Hey there. So before we head over to the next episode, I wanted to let you know about my show named Beach Bench Medium, and it's on my YouTube channel. As I passed by beach benches that line the boardwalk, I felt the nudge from Spirit to bring family members to their bench and give them a reading. If you have a bench dedicated to someone you lost, then get in touch with me at hello@dawnricci.com. I would love for you to be on the show. Thanks for listening.